Give me a one-handed economist because all of them say on the one hand we could have a recession, on the other hand, what recession? Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. This is Pradeep and you're watching Vlog of Note. In this video, we're going to take a rather contrarian view and talk about the reasons why the US could not enter a recession in 2023. Let's get started. So first of all, usual disclaimer here, I'm not a SEBI registered investment advisor or a certified financial planner. If you want to make any investments, you should do your own market research. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about the R word, the recession. Seriously though, this is a thing. There is something called the R-word recession index, which was basically created by The Economist, and it tracks the number of times the word recession is used in the Washington Post and the New York Times in the quarter under review. It was actually successful in predicting a recession in 1981, 1990 and 2001. However, it failed to predict the end of a recession in the early 1990s. Basically, if you continue to use the word recession, people will get recession in the brain and therefore we will enter a recession. So I thought in this video, let's spread some cheer and let's talk about the reasons why the US could not enter a recession next year. I've divided this video into chapters and timestamps and put them in the description right next to that like button, so you can always skip around if you want to. Now let's jump into the video. The first reason why I think the US could avoid a recession in 2023 is inflation. It's a hot topic right now. As we get into this section, let's talk about the different types of inflation. There are actually separate types. Now, there are three basic types of inflation, something called demand pull inflation. Basically, the demand increases because people have something like stimulus checks and therefore the prices go up and we have an inflation. There's also something called cost push inflation. Basically, you have raw materials increasing in price because of supply chain issues and therefore we have an inflation. And then you have built-in inflation. Basically, raw materials go up, wages go up, businesses increase their prices or shrink their products, mondelez, and therefore we have an inflation. If the question is what kind of inflation do we have right now, unfortunately we have all of the above. Speaking of inflation, the Federal Reserve in the US actually tracks one particular type of metric called the Personal Consumption Expenditure Price Index, and that currently fell from 6.3% to 6%. So inflation is on the decline. Even if you take the price of gas per gallon, it currently fell to $3.33 from a high of $3.54 before Russia invaded Ukraine. So currently the prices of gas are going down. Inflation is definitely going down. The Fed's preferred metric is supposed to be at 2.9% by next year, December 2023. So I ask you, what recession? The second reason why we could actually avoid a recession is because of increasing jobs. Jobs. Specifically something called the JOLTS report or the Job Openings and Labor Turnover Survey. Now basically the Bureau of Labor Statistics in the US counts the total number of jobs opened and subtracts from it the total number of people who quit or who are laid off or who retire. And if you take a look at that number, it's actually increasing. But what's even more important is that we have wage growth. Wage growth is usually measured in average hourly earnings. If you take someone who earned $1,500 for 100 hours of work last year, currently that person could be making $1,600 for the same 100 hours of work, and therefore you have an increase of 6.6%, which is actually pretty awesome. Now, if you take both of these metrics, JOLTS and wage growth, they are on the increase. The US added non-farm payrolls of 263,000. Also, you had 10.3 million job openings. Basically, there are 1.7 jobs open for every unemployed person, and the wage growth has gone up by 0.6% against a comparable period. Even if you take the unemployment rate, it's currently at 3.7% in the US, and by the end of next year, it's only projected to go up to 4.4%. So I ask you, what recession? The third reason why the US could actually avoid a recession has to do with GDP or gross domestic product. It is basically the total final value of goods and services sold or resold in an economy or a country during a particular period. And usually the GDP is one of the most important metrics that people measure, specifically by an organization called the Bureau of Economic Analysis, which also tracks indicators like unemployment and consumer spending. And as we just saw, both of those are increasing. In fact, the US's GDP in the most recent quarter available, rose by 2.9%. Not a huge increase, but certainly not a contraction. And by the end of next year, it's supposed to rise by 1.2%. Not a huge increase, but certainly not a contraction. So I ask you, what recession? Overall, you have three metrics: declining inflation, rising jobs, and rising GDP. That begs the question, what recession? If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. As always, please go over to YouTube, subscribe to the Vlog of Note channel, ring that notification bell so that you never miss a video, and I will see you guys in the next episode.